Hey guys, Boris here, bringing you another WOD review. With PB phase coming to a close, and just before we are starting to fully crunch out on all the top comps with the live data once the set goes live, I thought let's use this opportunity to look at an interesting game here from Imriveting, who is the Tacticians Cup champion from last set, and just seeing how you can approach more of an interesting line given the right spot and still perform quite well. We are starting out here with Lysandra pair and pairing that together with our Chogat. We also have the Victor here, which we could potentially play into reroll, but the key for this Victor MF reroll is having that drone psionic item. It can still perform quite decently otherwise, but then you need to be hitting a slightly ahead of curve and it's not going to be as strong or stable on stage 3. However, since we know this is quite stable line, we're going to be instantly putting in that time breaker right there, as that's a possibility to generate a recon. Going to give up on this Lysandra as well, and coming up in an augment selection. No scout, no pivot is not something we could be taking in this line. Really could only see it at the moment playing into something like a primordial reroll or that TF reroll. Patient's study is quite good with these econ openers, going to be very nice with the time breaker where you want to lose anyway to stack your rerolls, and for something like a primordial. However, primordials are quite strong. I would expect them to get some hit, more in line with the Ordals from before. Heavy of the Crown is not exactly the users we would be knowing of right now. There has been some testing, but would need a little bit more data to clearly stand out, have the standout winners and more experimenting once the live data goes live. I currently cannot exactly recall which ones are the best ones. Blood Offering would be something more we would be playing into. Something like a Riven comp, really. Riven Master Yi duo would be a potential. Money Hungry feels a little understated. I would value this similarly to Raining Gold, really, just in a little bit slightly different shape. But he's going to be popping that Heavy is the Crown, so let's see how he manages to approach what he's going to be going for. And I would imagine that perhaps something like a Chogat could perform quite well with it. Now, we are forgetting quite often that this Heavy of the Crown also has that HP healing aspect that still stacks up. And Chogat is obviously this Chogat is a throwback to set 9 Chogat, where once on kills he will start stacking. But the benefit with this one is that now he also starts getting a little bit less, but still some HP just from casting, and we hit that Chogat through right away. And I would expect that we're playing into some form of a brawler line. Now, who could we pair with those brawlers? There is a possibility to go for Lulu, but that's obviously a 3 cost. So we would either be looking to finish this Chogat real fast and then pushing up around some form of a 4 cost, or try to find a 1 cost we could roll together with. I personally, one of my first games in PB, tried it together with that Lysandra, and it did not exactly plan out. And here we can see the consequences, especially on PB with the lost streak, and I believe this is still going to be the case quite often when you go live, that sometimes people are just going to be playing extremely weak boards. So if you're in a position to tempo, that's one tip I definitely would give you once the set goes live. Try to tempo, secure a top 4s. Consistency is key to climbing. Just do that if you have the spot for. I myself am guilty of sometimes just going exactly into these time breaker lines, but obviously we're going to be most likely losing this fight here, as someone has tempoed out as a Mirror 2 from their side. Are they going to be going right for that Summoner knock-up comp? Personally, I have not found too much success with it. It's just simply does not really perform on the stage 3 on the 2 stars, and you need to be hitting quite early. But coming up on our God selection here, Varus is something that we could definitely consider into reroll, but this is not exactly the boon we would, the offering we would be looking for. If we got a tiny dupes one, this would be absolutely insane. Now again, but the Echoes one and the late 4 cost champion with a sword. Now we would be, if we are playing around this Chogat, we would want to get him 3 items as fast as possible, so he starts stacking, as with any stacking champion. Get him pumped up as fast as you can and let him get there. And the tier is more of a flexible item that we could be playing, can be transitioned into some form of AD marksman, AD caster, or a frontline item, something like a Spirit Visage perhaps, if you wanted to. And then aligning later on with the Varus is not that bad. It's going to be a little bit overlap in the Thomas of Health boon. If we are playing into these brawlers, we do not going to be stacking too much health, but we're going to have a little bit of star level to make up for perhaps getting a little bit more value. Going to be picking up a Briar here as a 2-star 1 cost. Perhaps could maybe go for some potential kills if we wanted to, or just sell it, and otherwise it's just pulling out 3 units for ourselves at the moment. if we opted to. No, just going to be selling it here, going to get that Kaisa there, and considering the Spirit Visage Slam, going to be doing it. I would be, ideally we'd be looking here at the matchup we're going to be facing. Could also always take off this crown and see if there's necessity for us to slam in another form of a unit, either to secure a loss if you're going for that, or just simply keep it there. On the Kaisa, perhaps I would assume, go a little bit better. But I would assume that our plan is to try to loss streak here, try to guarantee some combo opponents, and take perfect losses just as we manage here. Someone going into that Lulu reroll, so I believe that line is already taken away from us right there. Going to be perhaps a 3-cost heavy reroll lobby here. So we have to watch out for, as obviously the 3-cost reroll, the downside is it's most expensive comp in the game. But if there's so many players pulling out the units, they're going to be hitting a lot more efficiently. However, with this set, the front line seems to be quite contested. You have those Maokais, you have those what is called Orns, right? And you have the Laui really there, but the Laui is only really be played into that anima line. So a lot of players fighting around the Maokais and the Orns is going to be quite hard. Now going to use our free roll rerolls here, and we have nicely not used our 2 XP to level here, as we want to be getting these level 4 odds. That's the best chance for us to be hitting that Chogat. They're going to be sitting already on 5 Chogats, which is a quite decent of a spot. Would be ideal if we had saved those rerolls there, but if we still had those rerolls, but it's going to be fine. Going to be rolling a little bit deep here, up down to 33 gold, and now this is the magic number we're going to be stopping at 32. We are quite fine to make 40 gold next turn. Going to be making that IE here, going to be slamming it on Ezreal and going for a stone plate. Now, perhaps considering him as a frontline potential option. Otherwise, I believe a Declaw would have been a quite decent of a slam as well, since we're going to be getting that HP. We already have a Spirit Visage, which is also in the form of an HP item, and then just simply getting those resists on these bruisers is going to be quite valuable. Stoneplate, I could see potentially either we are playing for this one Cho bite him strategy where he's just going to be the last unit alive, especially with this heavy of the crown, taking all the aggro, getting those resists that way. Rather than someone who is going to be actively stalling in the early stages of the game once we get there. As once we're pushing levels, obviously more frontline units, and positioning around a single stoneplate tank can be quite bad, especially if you want this unit to be stacking up. Because I don't believe he has the innate healing to be able to sustain enough. Coming up on our augment selection here, something like Ascension here, playing in these Stalcoms is absolutely insane. I would believe that would be our best pick. Corrosion here, since we're going to be running a more of a frontline heavy board if you're playing around these brawlers, it's not that bad of an option either. Troop Hug could require us to do awkward positioning, and with the Stone Plate, if you're going to try to maximize its value, is going to be just simply a little bit too awkward for ourselves. Team building could enable us to... would be too delayed. We could use a single dupe and just try to find a single copy, and then that would allow us to spike, but would reduce our potential to cap. And if you're playing a little bit lower of a value of a comp, that's going to be there. Okay, we can just roll once and hit. That's going to be completely fine for ourselves. So in a quite good spot actually, hitting there on 3-2, hitting on tempo pretty much. And now hopefully this Chogat is going to be able to secure some kills, and we're going to be able to try to spike our board into someone with a Riven already, the Riven with the Brawler Emblem and quite good items, putting up a fight against us there, but this Chogat is actually biting them down and is going to be taking there, as we can see. Already managed to reach, I believe it was 6,000 HP, so now we're going to slitting in for 4 Brawlers as well. And hopefully this guy is going to be able to carry us through the rest of the stage. I'm a little bit worried about our backline damage, but going to transition the IE to the Urgoth. They're still greeting that Tomb Timebreaker is form of an econ option for ourselves to get to these later cost units, hopefully going to print us a little bit of an extra XP. Otherwise, could have just tried to potentially mech that Urgot, just try to get a little bit more damage out of him. Also opted to level aggressively, since this is the stage we want to win rounds, right? This is the strongest point we're going to be with a 3-star 1-cost. So we're trying to secure the kills and try to scale our Chogat. For our offering here, we pretty much have our frontline items sorted out right now. We'll be looking some form of backline items, and since we have that IE slammed, the sword seems quite appealing, and would give us some form of a potential carry, as we have not really found one right now, but it obviously would be delayed value. 4 rounds would be coming up after 4-2, so it's after your roll down. So this is the little bit nasty part, and this is why I do not like this offering as much. Getting a copy of an 3-cost champion you own, however, would provide us with most I believe we only are running right now the Urgot, so potentially we're able to roll the Urgot, but I'm not exactly sure how we'll be taking that care of that Rod. Going to be ripping that Echo, then going to value Gold Influx, plus having some form of a carry in for pretty much a guaranteed way. And obviously we can just simply better use that sword, and going to go for a Reforge and find a Deathblade is going to work out very nicely. Picking up that Ezreal too, so going to transition items to him for now. As this Ezreal has been around, so potentially he has also gained a little bit of stacks on his side. And hopefully, as long as there's no real backline access right now to threaten this Ezreal, this Chogat should be able to stall long enough. But the Samira there, still the players 100 streaking from that Samira too. That's the way how you really want to be playing that heroic grab bag from 2-1, just pumping out your 2-star 3 cost. If you have one that can carry with an item slam and then try to streak off, that's how you make up for using those duplicators early on. Otherwise, if you're just holding on to them, you're going to be playing pretty much without a gold augment until you're going to end up using them, right? And I've seen some players greed it into stage 5, and that's, well, you played just 80%, 90% of the game without a gold augment. Was it worth it? Right? Obviously, sometimes you can try to roll down on 4-1 and hope that you're going to hit. It's, in that case, hitting on stage 5 is a little bit roll, but try to use your tempo. You try to use your dupes for tempo. That's the takeaway that Dog always mentions as well. From our components, we do get a last Whisper, I believe, here, and could just be tossing on something like that BT. Now, for consideration here, if we had that Kai'Sa there, could potentially transition, then start playing around the Riven carry. Now, Riven is a quite popular of a champion in the current meta. I just, for example, came out of a lobby where the Riven was at least 3-weight and all the Rivens being pulled out by 4-2. So, but this lobby dynamic, I haven't really seen that many players playing around Riven, and that's how we could actually use both the AD items. However, Kai'Sa does want some form of a mana regen on her own. Okay, so we can... So, this was not player combats. That's a good thing to note for me as well here. That this is going to come on 4-2. You can just tab out and see exactly what 5 costs you got. The potential to play around some Soda, I do not really see how Blitz could be playing into this line. Salvage Bin is going to be in generally wanting to be playing it from 2-1, from 3-2 slots. As it's going to be a delayed value augment and unless you're going to be planning some board pivot, wouldn't be too excited. Clocklight Accelerator plays quite well into that, our scaling plan, just stalling for that ascension to kick in, that we were absolutely strong. Late game, as long as we're late fight state, as long as we're able to get there. Heroic Grab Bag is just would be considered at this point as a gold augment that we're not too excited about. Second Wind actually could be quite nice to just simply restore, since we're going to have that much HP on our board. 60% of their missing health is going to be quite a lot. Precision, we have IE Slams, not interested in Cybernetic Implants. We have that AD, we have the IT items, so that I would not see how we could use another sword right now. So, just going to be taking up the second win here, and we are still not that rich, so we're going to have to go for a slow level 8. And hope that we're still able to pick up fights. The player who was strand streaking for a while has managed to find their Samira 3, so interested in their placement this game, as this is pretty much as good as you can get with a 3-cost reroll. Hitting that on 4-2 is quite valuable, and if she's not going to perform from there, I'm not too sure. Our downside here is that we're still carrying that Ezreal, so he's a little bit low on HP, and these Replicator, MF, and Lulu are able to get to his backline, and the Cho is trying to put up his best, but simply not able to stand against them. I would assume that he's valuing here having those items on the Ezreal here, since he has been stacking since the early game rather than transitioning them to the Samira. We're not exactly in a spot where we have to worry about our remover situation, therefore having them there, transition in the case we found a better carry would become quite fine. We could potentially also consider playing into something like a Corki, I believe. Since if we are able to slot in a Fate, having that IE is not that bad. I'm just not sure who else would be this AD item to hold there for our late game. Unfortunately, unable to take down the Mecha Ace board. Just the Mighty Mech able to stall too long for ourselves, as we're lacking in that damage front right now. For our last boon, we have to also decide which god we're going to be aligning ourselves with. At the moment, I believe we still have that BT on our bench. And we have the Sunder sorted out, so the belt would most likely end up having to be some form of a Stereox gauge if we went that way. And the lesser duplicator, I just do not see exactly the value we would be gaining from that right now. However, that would provide us some form of mana generating item potentially. And going to be just picking up a Mordekaiser here. Could potentially be trying to maybe think about playing it also a Karma as a carry. Now Karma comes up, so let's see if he's going to be grabbing that, picking that up. Going to be passing it, and he seems to be considering a Zaya. Zaya really wants those attack speed items, and she's going to be understood. We do get a 2-star Riven shop. Talking about contested Riven, uncontested in this lobby. So 2-star Riven here is obviously going to be fitting quite well right away. Going to be slamming those 80 items there, making that BT slam. And now that we should be having our damage issues kind of sorted out, but unfortunately this TF reroll with that no scout, no pivot on the roll, very strong augments from them, and it's going to be a tough matchup to come into. This is how these one-cost rerolls potentially can sometimes win out, and TF is already quite strong. There are some augments that also enable him. For example, the one that transitions the overkill is quite strong. And we see another Chogat player here. This is interesting, double Chogat lobby. This is something you don't see very much so, but I believe that we just simply have a stacked for longer in there, and they have a one item Ezreal carry right there. Maybe we caught them in an item transition, and we're just simply able to clean up as they're not able to get through our Chogat. For our last items, ideally we're looking for 3 components to simply complete our full items, but cannot roll too deep. Get the, I would believe, Stereox Gauge Hodge. I'm going for another IE. So what do we do exactly with the Spirit Visage? I believe Stereox Gauge Hodge would have been cool, alright combo to be making. They're transitioning that IE to the Kaisa there that we slammed on. But maybe he sees this is a better way to complete the items. And also we haven't continuously been digging for that Tom Kench, as Tom Kench is extremely contested unit. This is going to be an issue playing in any form of a bruiser frontline if you're simply not able to find these Chogas. But again, this replicator comp proving to be the pain for ourselves, as they're able to simply take our backline down, and then the Chogat has to be facing overwhelming odds to fight. So it's going to be interesting how we opt to cap out this board, as we haven't played exactly into 6 Brawler. Perhaps the read here is that 6 Brawler simply is not as strong, so playing around these 4 and providing of our other ways how we could be capping our board efficiently is a way. Now our Riven was able to get to the backline, take them out, and the Chogat has stalled, so it seems that as long as there's not that much burst or some form of a backline access from us, from the opposite side to get down our backline carry, we are quite fine to be... we are quite fine to win the fights, and this Chogat has started to grow extremely large. They're already at 9,000 HP, so let's just see this HP bar turn into a barcode there against the giant anomaly Chogat there. 2 Titans absolutely going at each other, but our Chogat simply hasn't been taken down. They still do not have that dash damage on their side, and now the Tom can just get released, and we have secured ourselves a top 4. And coming up for the last items, we're just looking to, I believe, complete perhaps another tank item set. Or we could just try to see if we want to start itemizing slowly this Sona. Adaptive Helm would obviously be the choice for that there, and that seems to be the read. Just get even more potential units on our board, as we have that combat augment for the scaling for this frontline. Now we have this big ass Chogat right there. But again, this replicator comp, as long as we are on the same side, they're just simply able to get to ourselves and take us out. Now we're finally able to find a Tom Kench, but obviously this is no, we had it already before, but we still haven't really cashed out from it, so it's going to be quite late. Going for Dark Star Splash, and we find that Jhin, so playing around the 2 snipers, so transitioning this adaptive helm is completely fine, and Jhin is going to give us some little bit of an ID. And here comes that Samira comp. They have managed to find the North 3, which is usually the harder part into this comp. But are they able to get through the Chogat? And they are, as again the knockups come in and our backline gets taken out. This is the worrying bit here about these some of these in the meta currently. Sometimes you just simply get to your backline and you have to either be trying to play around careful positioning or have those backline units be in other forms protected. Something like an Asol, for example, is able to strive just because he's able to fly around and generally dodge the rest of the access. Now we have transitioned into a Xayah Jhin duo here, able to pick up that Fiora too as well, so going to transition more items on her. This Xayah though, with this itemization, I'm not sure if she's going to be able to do too much into that TF reroll here, and the Chogat has ascended. Now, can this Chogat really finally show himself off, and he's able to sustain that damage? The single target nukes from the TF coming in are not enough, and even when we are trying simply frontlining this Chogat, still with this solo frontline gargoyles right there, and he's absolutely taking up half the board pretty much. This is very interesting to note, but again, now there's the Bane, our replicator comp that has managed to find all their 3 stars. Will they be able to get to our backline this time? We have the Ascension kicking in, the Chogat is getting continuously knocked up, so he's not able to really starting to take out these units, and our Xayah is going to be going down, and the Chogat has to face the insurmountable odds, and unfortunately he just does not have that damage into him, and he gets taken out. And it seems to be a double kill, only by 2 HP that we lose this fight, but absolutely glorious to see how well this comp performs when you identify its spot. And the Chogat, if he just gets a little damage buff, can definitely get there and start taking out those units one by one slowly. And perhaps if we're able to figure out a little bit of a better backline composition, we would be able to definitely put together a strong fight from ourselves. I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope that you learned something new. And next week, we're going to be diving more into specifics of the comps, trying to climb for the meta, and I wish you all very pleasant set launch. Have a good one.